Aloha, you're listening to Chad Ford's NBA Big Board on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm with Rafael Barlowe, who is the Director of Scouting here at NBA Big Board, as well as getting ready to take over as the owner of NBA Big Board, both the podcast and the website. We are going to talk Rookie of the Year. We have started a bit of a Twitter firestorm the last couple of days on who should be Rookie of the Year. We're going to talk about Scottie Barnes, Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, lots more, as well as a Final Four preview. Here we go. Love that music. Love that sound. Gonna miss that. I'm gonna miss hearing that theme song to the podcast.
It's like your game time, like the Bulls intro.
It gets me pumped up. Next week is going to be my last podcast with Rafael, and we're going to kind of do a retrospective and kind of go back and think about a lot of sort of highlights from the draft. But I want to do two things in this podcast with Rafael before he takes over full time, and he's got some really great plans, and we'll talk about those next week for the podcast and what's coming down. One is we were both together covering last year's draft. We both were in the studios there in Dallas for Locked On, and it's essentially the year's over. We know how these rookies have played this year, at least in the regular season, and I think it's time to make our predictions for Rookie of the Year and go a little bit deeper in this class, as well as it's a big weekend with the Final Four coming up. You got Duke, North Carolina, which is huge, not only from a basketball perspective, but some interesting draft prospects there. Duke has a ton, and then Kansas and Villanova on the other side. Not as many draft prospects on that side of the bracket, but Kansas certainly has some really interesting prospects as well. So we'll break all of that down today. But I want to start, Rafael, with my Twitter followers are killing each other right now. Luckily, they're not killing me so much. They're killing each other right now. What's become a really tight three-way race between Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley, and Scottie Barnes. Depending on what you like, depending on what you value in the NBA, I think there's a legitimate case to be made for all three of these guys as the Rookie of the Year, and just going forward, a legitimate case for all three of them of who is long-term going to be the best player of the year. So I'm going to put you on the spot right at the start of the podcast. And my first question to you is this is the easier one, by the way, who would be your vote for Rookie of the Year?
Oh man. You know what? It's one of those things where I came into the podcast with one person, then it switched right when you started recording. And man, I don't want to take the easy way out, but I'm going to go with the 1994 split. And I'm going to go with Evan Mobley and Scottie Barnes splitting Rookie of the Year.
Okay, you're going to split the award.
I mean, it's
possible. I think it's possible. I mean, I don't have the same pulse that I used to of the writers to know, where they're ultimately going to come down on this, particular issue. I know Evan Mobley has been probably in the lead for most of this year, and he had an ankle injury the other night, and hasn't had the big post All-Star bump that you've seen from both Cade and Scottie. So it'll be interesting. Or Jalen Green, actually. We got to talk about that. And we're going to talk about Bones Hyland, by the way, as well, because his numbers are incredible. If you look at his post All-Star 36 numbers as well. So you say Scottie and Evan. That's a little bit. I'm going to ask you this next question, because then I'm going to get you to talk about one of these guys. Long term, 10 years from now, who's the best player in this draft class?
I'm still going to go with Cade. I'm still going with Cade Cunningham.
Okay, so Cade doesn't deserve Rookie of the Year, and we can talk about why. Let's start with that. Why didn't you vote for Cade then for Rookie of the Year? Because Detroit fans are convinced because his scoring output and his counting stats are the highest of all of the rookies that he should be Rookie of the Year. Why didn't you go that direction?
Well, I'm going to go with winning. I think And I mean, you're kind of seeing it with Jalen Green in a sense, like after All-Star break, and I know Cade was injured at the beginning of the year and kind of had a slow start, but after All-Star break, then once you get to about March, and then some years it used to carry into April, you start seeing rookies just kind of put up these huge numbers in a sense, and sometimes they're actually having in-season improvement. And then some cases, I mean, I think like Tyreek Evans in a sense, the team is like, we want you to win Rookie of the Year. Go and get these crazy numbers, and you're going to help us get a better draft pick. And I'm basing my decision off of Barnes and Mobley are on winning teams, and they may not have, because their teams are fighting for playoff position. So they're not going to have the luxury to just go put up crazy stats for a Rookie of the Year push.
It's interesting because here's some of what our readers on NBABigBoard.com, our newsletter, where we just had an article about this, and some of our readers have chimed in. One pro Cade argument that they make, so I want to take it the other way because this is sort of a chicken and the egg argument, is because Cade and Jalen are on bad teams per se, and they have to shoulder the load themselves in ways that Scottie and Evan Mobley are part of a team where they're sharing the load with other prospects. That allows defenses to key in on those guys. They have to carry more weight. Their efficiency dips in part because of what they're asked to do every night. And so it's not, because I think actually the strongest argument against Cade is that you look at his efficiency numbers at post All-Star break. Cade is averaging 21.3 points a game, 6.5 rebounds a game, 6.7 assists a game. Those counting stats, those are exceptional. They really beat everybody else. But he's shooting 45% from the field and only 28% from three, and averaging nearly 4 turnovers a game. Look at Scottie Barnes' numbers post All-Star break. They're similar, 18.1 points, 8.1 rebounds, 3.8 assists, but he's shooting 54% from the field, nearly 10%, 10 percentage points higher from the field, much more efficiency than Cade. But 18 points to 21 points, I mean, that's a difference of 3 points a game, but that's not a huge difference. And actually, Scottie shot better from three than Cade does, though Cade does it at a higher volume. And so I'm interested in what your thought is there about the fact that you can give Jalen Green and Cade especially some slack because they don't have the talent around them. They have to carry things every night. That it forces them into bad shots. Their assist numbers are deflated in part because their other teammates can't finish. And Scottie and Evan Mobley get protected by playing with other all-stars or quasi all-stars.
Yeah, I agree 100% with both arguments. And I think even with Cade, the efficiency is going to be lower because he's the one that's taking the end of the shot clock bombs. He's taking the contested threes with 4 seconds left on the shot clock. And again, the turnovers, which, aren't too surprising because he had a negative assist to turnover ratio in college anyway. I'm just going to reward winning in this case. And I think at the beginning of the season, if you told me the Cleveland Cavaliers were going to be a playoff team, I would have said, there's no way. Now you can say Darius Garland and the resurgence of Kevin Love and Jarrett Allen are the main reasons. But I think also if you were to poll most GMs and say, if you could take any player off that Cavaliers roster, who would you take? And they would say Mobley. So
I think they'd even say it. Interestingly, they might even say it right now. I mean, there definitely will be an argument for Darius Garland right now, like if you were going into a playoff series right now. But Evan Mobley's defense is elite, and I know some readers, some of our Twitter followers are frustrated that we keep talking about defense here. But Evan Mobley's defense has been elite. If you look at 538's Raptor, he's the 7th best defender in the NBA. Not among rookies in the NBA, and LeBron, another Basketball Reference all-in-one statistic, has him in the top 5. And so Evan Mobley's not just like a good defender for a rookie. He could make an all defensive team as a rookie, and so I think that's a big plus.
Yeah, it's just not as sexy in a sense, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, you're
it,
not going to get a bunch of crazy highlight reel defensive possessions. And let's be honest, a lot of times that plays a factor in people's
mhm,
decisions in voting. It's not like the Cavaliers are on TV every night.
mhm.
So you're going to turn on ESPN or on YouTube and you're going to see more offensive
Yeah,
highlights and dunks. So, but I'm just going to reward winning. And I
yeah.
mean, Toronto, we have two teams that picked in the top 5 that are in the playoffs. How often
If
does that happen?
if Cade was top 10 in something, all NBA, scoring, assists, whatever, then I think you could make an apples to apples argument. Okay, well, he's, top 10. But Cade's not top 10 in anything. He's not top 10 in scoring or anything else where Mobley is. I'm a Barnes guy. I put Barnes number one on my board. I didn't expect to. David Thorpe and I both kind of fell in love with Scottie Barnes before the draft. I think that's sort of well documented. But I was on record, and I think David Thorpe was on record as well, is that this is going to be a work in progress. I did not expect in any way that I would be saying the words that Scottie Barnes post All-Star break is averaging 18, 8, and 4 a game on pretty high efficiency from the field. Like that wouldn't have occurred to me after what he did at Florida State his freshman year. I thought this was going to be 2 or 3 years out. Scottie Barnes has a chance to be the best player in this draft, and now 1 year in, I hear comparisons from NBA teams like his ceiling to players like Kawhi Leonard, to like Giannis Antetokounmpo, a guy who is so versatile that they're going to get it done on both ends of the floor. They don't have to be elite 3-point shooters. Definitely the knock against Scottie right now is that he's still a subpar 3-point shooter, but he does everything and he can do everything. And the Raptors have actually had some significant injuries to Fred VanVleet, and other players. And Scottie's kind of held them together
Yeah.
on this team, and the playoff push is still there. So even when you want to say, well, he's playing with all stars, and Fred VanVleet, the Raptors have had their fair share of injuries, and Scottie Barnes has been, I think, the glue that sort of held this guy together. And so for me, Barnes gets the edge because he's a plus defensively and offensively. The versatility that's there, the impact that he has on winning on this team. To me, he's the most complete player. While I can argue Evan Mobley is a better defender and Cade Cunningham is a better offensive player than either of those two players right now, to me, Scottie's the most complete. I think he's had the biggest impact on winning, frankly, even more than Evan Mobley, in part because I think Evan Mobley does have a better surrounding cast than Scottie Barnes does on this team.
I
And
think
and
that's
so
even debatable. I mean,
yeah,
Siakam he's been on a tear. He's a former All-Star.
Fred
I mean,
VanVleet,
Van Vliet is good. I mean, they have a championship coach.
OG, yeah.
So that's why it was tough for me
Mm.
to figure out which one deserves. So I took the easy way out and it gave it a split. But what's even funnier is, and I was wrong about Scottie Barnes. I did not see this aggression on the offensive end. I
Hmm.
thought he was going to be passive. I thought he was going to be good, but if I were to guess what his numbers would have been, I would have said, oh, he's going to average about 8 or 9 points per game. He's going to average maybe 4 rebounds, 4 assists. He's going to be a plus defender, but I didn't see 18. And I don't think anybody
I
did.
didn't either. I don't think anybody did, to be honest.
And,
Yeah.
and Masai was kind of criticized for not taking Jalen Suggs on draft day. And so, here we are, and Scottie Barnes could very well win Rookie of the Year.
You said you think long term though it's going to be Cade. And again, I think for our listeners, we're not hating on any three of these guys. Like all three of these guys in a normal Rookie of the Year cycle, I think would be an easy choice to be Rookie of the Year. We have a deep draft class. The 2021 draft class is deep. I think Franz Wagner could be a legitimate Rookie of the Year candidate in another year as
Josh
well.
Giddey.
Frankly, Josh
Josh
Giddey,
Giddey too.
perhaps
And he
54
may not
games.
even be top 6. He may be
Yeah,
the 6th best rookie in this class.
So we're talking about a deep class, so nobody get offended here. I think we think the ceiling for Scottie Barnes, Evan Mobley, and Cade Cunningham is all super high. These are going to be perennial all stars in the NBA someday. You think at the end of the day it's going to be Cade though? 10
Yeah.
years from now, we're going to look back and say, Cade, why?
I just think at the end of the day, once he gets better teammates, I think the assist numbers will be better and the turnovers will cut down. I think he is the guy that will be your end of the shot clock scorer, your go-to guy. I mean, he's already averaging. I mean, I know it's the second half of the season, but he's averaging 20 now. I mean, let's say he makes the jump into 3 years, it's 25. Is he going to put up 25, 7-7, 25, 8-8? And those numbers, I mean, even though the scoring is up, but those numbers could suggest that he could be a top 10 player in the NBA. And so I'm just going to lean with the guy that I feel like is going to be my end of the clock, late game clutch shot
Mhm.
maker.
Yeah. Look, I think it's a legit thing there. I think we've talked about this before. The player from this draft class you'd most like to see with Cade, you're Chet, right? Is that right?
I'm
Who do you want to see
Banchero.
with Cade?
I'm Banchero.
Banchero with
Yeah, I
with
want to see some
Cade.
inverted 4-1 pick and rolls. I just want to
Okay.
see something
Okay.
really, really creative there. Um, yeah, I
He
mean,
can fit with all four. All four of these guys would help. The four top guys we're talking about. I'm a Jabari.
yeah.
I'd love to see Jabari Smith with him. I think that that would be just a really incredible sort of combination, and have a guy who's just a lights out shot maker to put on the floor with him. I also am intrigued with a Cade Jaden Ivey backcourt. I think there could be, and not having to put the pressure on Jaden Ivey to be the lead primary ball handler on a team. And I think we saw in the tournament against St. Peter's like how that was not Jaden Ivey's best performance. Let's just say that. And you can go over to NBABigBoard.com, subscribe to our newsletter. It's free, by the way. So we have premium content on it, but you'll get those emails and podcasts and everything else there. When we were breaking it down, of the guys that had the roughest week in the tournament, I'd say Jaden Ivey. There was not a lot of redeeming things there, but I really love an idea of Cade and Jaden Ivey together and taking that pressure off him being a lead ball handler. And then Chet, Chet's Chet, and you could definitely see that there as well. So hopefully Detroit gets one of those four guys, and I think it's going to be a huge improvement on Cade and where he's able to go. They're probably still a lottery team 1 year later, and so then they'll roll into 2023 draft. I think still with another top 5 pick, and I don't love that draft as much, but with Wembanyama there, like man, you could have a monster team down the road for him.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's far fetched to say that the Pistons, regardless of where they pick in the draft, could select Jaden Ivey. It slips my mind, but the decision maker there isn't it the same person that drafted Westbrook in Oklahoma City?
Yeah, Troy Weaver. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I mean, has a track record of taking super athletic guards that you may wonder what is their position. And
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, and you called it first. You called it back in like November, saying you don't think it's a long shot that Ivy could be the number one pick or he could pass
Yeah.
one of the big three freshmen. And I think if there is a team that could possibly take Ivy over Banchero or Jabari or Chet, Detroit might be that team.
Mm. Yeah, and they need athleticism. I would actually say that Troy Weaver's track record in Detroit has not been towards getting the elite athletes. Isaiah Stewart's not really that. Sadiq Bey's not that. Killian Hayes isn't that. Cade's not that. Luca Garza, not, that has not been their track record. But it's, I mean, they have some athletes on their roster, but not in their sort of top tier level of players. And so certainly adding a guy like Jaden Ivey or
With
Jabari.
Bagley,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Bagley helps. Now it evens out a little bit.
yeah. All right. By the way, my pick for best player long term is actually going to be Evan Mobley. I think that the offense is going to come around for him. I think that's clearly where he's still figuring things out. He's struggled from three. He struggled to really split the floor a little bit. I think as he gets stronger physically, he's going to be more effective in the post than he is now. And I think the shot's going to come along. I really do. I think he's going to be one of these guys that's just going to be impossible to guard defensively, but I think it's going to take another year or two. So I'm projecting down the road that he's going to continue to be a monster on defense, but the offense is going to come around where he's going to be dangerous there as well. And maybe he'll lean into where we kind of thought Anthony Davis was going to be with his career. I think injuries have taken some of that shine off Anthony Davis, but this guy that's really a two-way player that can be dominant on both ends. So Evan Mobley's my guy. All right. When we come back, we're going to talk about the rest of the rookies, and we'll kind of get a suss out an order past the top three. Plus, we're going to talk about the final four. But I want to talk about our sponsor, NBA Top Shelf, officially licensed NFT of the NBA. Connect with a community of hundreds of thousands of NBA fans. It's a natural progression of fantasy sports, a way to upgrade your experience as an NBA fan. This is the future of what being an NBA fan looks like. It's part trading cards. Every moment of Tot Shot originates a pack. Unlike trading cards, there aren't really still images or cardboard. They're officially licensed NFTs, the greatest moments from NBA history. Akin to the stock market for the NBA, every day millions of dollars worth of NFTs are traded back and forth for tens of thousands of NBA fans around the world. It's partly fantasy sports in that every night you have the ability to capitalize on the market if you're able to predict top performers. And it's kind of like an airline loyalty program for the NBA. We flew collectors out. It was game 5 of the NBA Finals based on having Suns moments. They flew collectors out for the NBA draft following the rookie moments. They got to have dinner with first-round draft picks the night before they were drafted. Users also got to play basketball with Obi Toppin and Tyrese Halliburton. Investors include Michael Jordan and Kevin Durant, not to mention Will Smith. There's also a lot of NBA players in the community like Tyrese Halliburton, Cole Anthony, and Harrison Barnes. I hear people ask all the time, why would I buy a highlight when I can watch it on YouTube for free? I've asked that question. It's not just about watching a highlight. It's about having ownership stake, what's akin to a stock market for the NBA's greatest highlights. If you were to tell somebody in 1916 that your piece of cardboard with Babe Ruth's face on it would be worth millions of dollars every day, everyone would think you're crazy. This is the opening tip-off of a digital age. The NBA's officially licensed NFT will be a big part of that digital age. Imagine when the NFTs are even mainstream on social media, you'll be able to flex that you own around the world instantly. No binders, no shoe boxes. If you sign up for Top Shot today, the best way to start is by getting yourself a starter pack. You can pull an NFT of a superstar like LeBron or KD, or star rookies like Cade Cunningham or Evan Mobley for $9. And if you didn't pull your favorite player from the starter pack, you can snag moments from the marketplace that appeal to you. It's Top Shot. Sign up today. All right, Rafael. We talked about Cade. We talked about Evan Mobley. We talked about Scottie Barnes. Then there's another group of guys. And by the way, Orlando Magic fans are a little bit salty that Franz Wagner isn't in this conversation. He had a great rookie season, maybe the most consistent of all the rookies, it just kind of started good and just stayed good throughout the entire year. You've got Josh Giddey. You've got a huge second half surge from Jalen Green, and we'll talk about that in a second. His numbers in some ways are better than Cade Cunningham's if you really want to take post All-Star break numbers. Josh Giddey, we talked about as well. Who's your guy after those three are off the board?
I'd have to go with Green.
Okay. Why?
I have to go with Green. I mean, I think that the same reason why everyone thought he deserved to be the number 2 pick. He just got off to just a rough start, even though I think a lot of people may have thought he was probably the most likely to win Rookie of the Year because you just knew he was going to get shots and just have total freedom. But he's turned it up on as of late. I mean, he's in a situation where he has all the tools. And so I think if he doesn't get off to such a slow start, then, he's in the conversation that we had in the first segment.
Here's his numbers before the All-Star break. 14.6 points a game. That's okay. 3.1 rebounds a game. 2.3 assists a game. Okay. 2.2 turnovers a game. 1-to-1 assist turnover ratio. But this was the killer. 38% from the field, 31% from three. Really low efficiency there. But listen to the numbers after the All-Star break. 19.7 points, 3.7 rebounds. That goes up. 3.3 assists, increase an assist a game. 1.7 turnovers. His turnovers go down significantly. 47% from the field. So he improves his field goal percentage by almost 10%, and 38.3% from three post All-Star break. Those are really good numbers. And if you line those up with Cade Cunningham, better rebounder, better assist, turnovers dramatically lower for Jalen Green, and those shooting percentages significantly higher, especially from three. He's 10% again higher from three than Cade. So for all the Cade fans that are out there, like, my guy's on a bad team and he has to shoulder the load, but look at the counting stats and the numbers that he's put up. Well, then Jalen Green is doing it, and doing it more efficiently than Cade Cunningham post All-Star break. And I'm really happy for him. I think we both really like Jalen Green coming out. I was totally cool with the Rockets taking him at 2. I personally would have taken Evan Mobley and Scottie Barnes ahead, but I thought Jalen Green was in that mix. And it's reminiscent to me of Anthony Edwards last year, starting off his rookie season really rocky, and then really coming on towards the end of the season. And then he's been able to translate that into a really excellent sophomore season. All right. So you've got Jalen Green, then who? You've got Josh Giddey. You've got Franz Wagner. I left out a guy, by the way, that made my top 5 for Rookie of the Year, Herbert Jones out of New Orleans, which when you go to the advanced stats, they actually say this guy should be Rookie of the Year. Actually, 2 of the 3 big ones that I go with, Darko and Raptor and LeBron, 2 of those 3 actually had Herbert Jones. He's also one of only 5 rookies that's played over 2,000 minutes. So he's played a lot of minutes on this New Orleans team. Defense definitely ahead of the offense this year, and he should be in consideration as well. So who would you take of that group?
Oh man, I think I'm just not a big fan of the situation in Orlando. I think it could totally change for Wagner next year, because you're assuming they're going to bring Isaac back and then another top pick. So I'm going to go with Giddey. I think he's going to have the best. I think he's in the best position to succeed there. But actually, you know what? I'm going to take that back. I'm going to throw a wild card for you.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Alperen Sengun.
Okay, who did not make my top 10, by the way, this year. But certainly there are fans who think that he is going to be special down the road. Why Sengun?
I mean, well, one, I think that his best attribute on offense is he's a low post scorer. Now, of course, in today's NBA, you're not going to get a lot of post touches, but he's playing on a team where he doesn't have anyone that is looking to get him the ball. He's had to kind of create his own offense at the 5. Like, I've seen plays where he got the rebound and had to push it up the court himself. I think the shooting is going to come along. I think the passing is going to come along. I know based off some analytic formula last year, he was considered the top prospect.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've seen Rocket fans complaining that he should be starting, and they don't like the way that he's being used. And I just think that once he puts it all together, he's going to end up outperforming his draft position.
Okay. He did not make my top 10 for Rookie of the Year, but he would definitely be in my top 10 if I was thinking about long-term who are going to be the top prospects in the draft. So mine went 4 Franz Wagner for Rookie of the Year, 5 Herbert Jones, Jalen Green 6th, Josh Giddey 7th, and Giddey probably would have been a few spots higher, but he had that hip injury, ends up only playing 54 games this year. I want to end with 2 sleeper guys that I didn't expect to have big years. One was Jonathan Kuminga. I didn't think he'd see anything but garbage time in Golden State. Injuries changed that for them, but also sometimes his play. He was really good in the limited minutes that they put him out there. And again, he's a guy that when you look at, okay, he doesn't get a lot of minutes. But when you look at his per 36 numbers, 19.4 points, 7.5 rebounds a game for the Warriors. That's really impressive. He's a guy that I think is going to keep getting better and better. I've really liked him. But I want to talk about Bones Hyland. Not only does he have the greatest name of anybody in this draft class, but here are his post All-Star numbers, Rafael, per 36 minutes. He comes off the bench. He's kind of a six-man for the Nuggets. So I'm going to expand it out to 36 minutes, which is about what Scottie Barnes and Cade Cunningham and Evan Mobley get every night. 22.6 points a game, 5 rebounds a game, 6.8 assists a game, 2.2 turnovers. So he's got like a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. He's shooting 48.1% from the field and 46.5% from three. That's insane. The volume is insane, and the efficiency. Oh, that's like one of the great rookie of all time.
Yeah.
The efficiency of the year. Now that's post All-Star, and it is adjusted to a per 36 minutes to kind of put him on par if he was getting the same minutes. He doesn't get those. He has the makings of a guy who's going to be, to me, like a Lou Williams or Jordan Clarkson, or I think he's going to be one of the great like sixth men of the year going down the road. And that's not as sexy as some of these other guys who are thinking about in different roles, but those are incredible numbers.
Yeah, and he's in like the perfect situation. I think if he goes to the wrong team, they may try to turn him into like a point, or trying to put him into a box. He's in a situation with Denver where he's on the court with Jokic. He's getting points by just cutting, running the floor, doesn't have to have the responsibility of setting guys up. But what's impressive to me is that he's putting up these numbers on a team that is competing. They're trying to win every single game. It's not a situation where, like I said earlier, guys get an uptick in their numbers when teams start shutting guys down, or their teams are just kind of, play themselves into a higher draft pick. He's doing this on a team that is competing, and that's been impressive to me.
Absolutely. All right. It's time to pivot to the 2022 NBA Draft. Final Four this weekend: Duke, North Carolina, Villanova versus Kansas. Before we dive into that, let's talk about our sponsor, Built Bar, and their new product, Puffs. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, they're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with incredible flavors like yummy cinnamon, churro, coconut, marshmallow, banana cream pie. So good. They're going to be your new favorite. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Yes, Puffs included. 100% real chocolate, low calorie, high protein. Replace your candy bars with these. They are better. Typical candy bar can be anywhere between 200 to 300 calories. Go to built.com and scroll down to the macros chart, and you'll be blown away. High protein, low cal, high fiber, low carb. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, 17 grams of protein. Compare that with a candy bar, which usually has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, dozens of net carbs, mint brownie, coconut almond, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. They're all delicious. They taste great. They're delicious, and they're good for you. And Built Bar, they're all about taste. They make it taste delicious first, then they figure out how to make it healthy. And I don't know how, but they pull it off every time. So go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. I feel like that built.com ad's going to be in my brain for like the rest of my life. I'm going to be able to recite that all the time. And I'm going to be a lifelong Built Bar fan.
I think so too.
Really love them. Okay, let's pivot to the Final Four. The drama of this Duke North Carolina game, first of all, North Carolina goes in to Mike Krzyzewski's final home game and wipes the floor with Duke, wins the game there. Coach Cade comes out afterward to address the audience, and he's still like angry, says this is unacceptable. The crowd's like, I mean, it was a really awkward situation. If you're a North Carolina fan, you absolutely loved it. You really, really stuck it to Duke. All right, man. I mean, the stakes of this game are so high right now. Duke won the first game in North Carolina. North Carolina wins the second game at Duke. The drama here, any game is the last game for Coach K. North Carolina can stick it to Duke fans again and knock him out of the tournament just one game away from the championship game. Or Duke can redeem itself here, come back, outplay North Carolina. To me, from the talent standpoint, this is Duke all the way.
Right.
They should be able to handle North Carolina, but their talent is young and it's been inconsistent. They struggled at times with lead guard play. Jay Roach is actually a guy who we haven't really talked much about as being a draft prospect. Has really started to steady them, I think, as their point guard, and has been one of their most important players. Your favorite guy in the draft is going to be there, and Paolo Banchero. He's going to match up against Armando Bacot, who is a beast on the boards and does some important things, or Brady Manick as well, who's out stretching the floor for North Carolina. First of all, who wins this game? And second of all, who has the most riding on their draft stock here?
Man, you got me on the hot seat twice today. I have to pick a winner.
Yeah, you got to pick a winner.
Oh, man. I mean, on paper, it's easy to say Duke. And then on one hand, you're like, does Coach Cade lose to a rookie head coach with less talent? I mean, just thinking about that just makes this storyline even more. I mean, just one of the craziest storylines that I can remember. I'm going to go with Duke. But man, this is going to be a great game. And who has the most? What was the question? Who has the most to gain?
Yeah. Who are you watching from a draft perspective that could help themselves here?
Man, honestly, I feel like I can go with 5 different answers. I mean, I think Banchero has solidified himself at the very, very worst, the top 4 pick. But I mean, against Bacot, that may take away some of his post play. All right. And then, let's say he's defending Manick and he's just getting beat, on leaving him open because Manick had threes in the last game. That could possibly impact. I think, like, even for AJ Griffin, even though I think that medicals are going to play the biggest impact on where he goes, but if he's not shooting well, which he shot 45% from 3 all season, so the chances of him not shooting well from 3 are slim. But if he's attacking the rim like he did in the Arkansas game, I think that could help him. Now, as far as Mark Williams, you can make a case and say he's been their most impactful player. If not him, then maybe Roach. I think as far as like the 2 guys that may have the most riding on this from a draft perspective are the 2 point guards, Caleb Love and Roach. I mean, Roach hasn't been on anybody's, I shouldn't say anybody's. He hasn't been considered a top 60 guy on most boards, but he's kind of played himself into that position now. He's made clutch plays. He's kind of steadied the offense. A good game or 2 could put him in that range. While I think if Caleb Love he can go for 30 or he can go for like 6 of 17. I think in the Baylor game, he was only 1 for 6. He could put himself in position to be a high second round pick, or he can have one of those off games and, make it a tough decision for him to choose. Does he stay in the draft or go back? And I think which makes this even more interesting is that these are like 2, like, obviously blue blood schools, 2 of the most recognizable schools. With this whole NIL situation, it's almost safer to return to school because you can make more money returning to school than you would if you're not a lock to go in the first round. And that's why I think, like, for Love and Roach, this performance, this game could like really, really be big for them as far as like what choice they make in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I think those are the 2 guys, Jay Roach and Caleb Love, that like have the most to gain out of having a really outstanding Final Four performance. Caleb Love, if our listeners remember, coming from his high school year into the 2020 or the 2021 NBA draft, was considered a first round pick, was considered maybe the best point guard in his class. Really, really struggled his efficiency his freshman year. Drops out of really consideration being drafted at all. Has been definitely better this year, all year. Definitely more consistent, but had a hard time breaking through. That 30-point game was a big deal, I think, for him, where he really carried North Carolina in the tournament. If he has a big game against Duke, I could see him, especially in what's a weak point guard class, catapulting himself up, because there's enough to like about Caleb Love, if you think he can do it consistently, to get him up there, and like you said, maybe like early second round, maybe even sort of late first round. Vice versa, if he has a bad Caleb Love game, and he's certainly capable of doing that, he might be right back where he started with, like he's not even going to probably get sniffs in the second round, which
Yeah.
is and Jay Roach, a guy that we weren't talking about very much. And he's small. He's a small guard, which always sort of hurts his draft prospect a little bit. But a big tournament, we could have a weird 6 Duke guys
Yeah.
getting drafted, and with Coach K leaving, they may all just decide it's time to clean the slate and get out of there. Let's pivot for a second to Kansas Villanova. Kansas has one, I think, clear first round guy in Ochai Agbaji, a guy who actually started red hot his senior year, has actually cooled off in February and March significantly. He does come back and in the Elite Eight and has a pretty good game for Kansas with 18 points, starts hitting some threes. But before that, it was a disastrous March for him, especially shooting the basketball. You've got Christian Braun, Jalen Wilson a little bit. Remy Martin has actually come on really big for them as well, though he's older, and I'm not really sure what kind of draft prospect he is. Colin Gillespie is probably, Villanova's, one draft prospect, the guy that, maybe like Peyton Pritchard just ends up, as a 4-year senior with toughness and, the ability to shoot the basketball, ends up, getting drafted somewhere. Who's going to win Kansas Villanova, and the draft prospect you think has the most at stake there?
Gonna go with Villanova, and I'd say who has the most
Wow.
at stake
You're
is. I mean, it's
killing me.
hard to go. I forgot all about that. And it's
Me.
funny.
Okay, it's fine.
I'm having a dinner with Keith Langford, another Kansas alum. So I'm sure he's going to ask me this question in a couple hours. So.
Rafael Barlowe will no longer be taking over the NBA Big Board podcast. The executive decision's just been made. He made the wrong choice in the Kansas Villanova matchup.
I forgot all about your ties to
Killing
Kansas.
me.
Just Villanova's. I mean, they're not the sexiest team. Every year, all their prospects seem to have the same characteristics, just this toughness but yeah, I'm going to go with Villanova here. I think the prospect that has the most to gain, and man, I'm going back and forth in my mind between is it Agbaji or is it Braun? I mean, I think if Agbaji has like an off shooting night, then man, I think for whatever reasons, even though he has over 100-something games of film, I just think he's the one guy, his lasting impression could actually help or hurt him. And I think Braun has a lot to gain. I think if he plays well, makes some athletic plays, then he's going to put himself in position to possibly be a first round pick. But at the end of the day, I just think Remy Martin is going to lead Kansas in scoring.
Yeah, it's and for good and for bad. There's good Remy Martin, there's bad Remy Martin, and look, I'm scared as a Kansas fan for Villanova. Of course, I'm going to pick Kansas to win it, and then Kansas to beat Coach K. In the final, that would make me really happy, just as a Jayhawks fan. But I the Agbaji thing's always been interesting to me because he's a senior. I think the bar is higher. He certainly played the part of a mid to maybe even late lottery first round pick the first half of the season. I understand the arguments there, though he didn't look anything like that as a freshman, sophomore, or junior, which is always a bit scary for me, right? Like when guys like get it their senior year. This wasn't like Corey Kispert where he was really good. It just like people didn't really start seriously taking him as a draft prospect until his senior year. Like, Agbaji wasn't that good until this year. And then you kind of see him in February and March, and he looks much more like the old Agbaji that we're used to sort of seeing in Kansas. And
Right after I wrote the article too.
right after
I wrote the
right after
article
you were his
comparing
hype man,
comparing him to Desmond Bain.
so I do think there's something to that there if he can't sustain it. So I do think he needs a strong tournament. Christian Braun, that mixed opinions about whether he's a first round, second round pick. So definitely a guy who can help. I also think Jalen Wilson, just, frankly, is a guy here who I actually think coming into the season, scouts saw him as the best pro prospect on the Jayhawks. And, he had some off the court challenges right at the beginning of that season, which I think threw him off a little bit. He's been much better in the second half of the season for him, and I could see him playing a role as well. So I've got Kansas over Duke in the final. Who wins Duke Villanova? Because that's your prediction, I guess, is Duke Villanova.
I'm going to go with Duke.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Duke here. Going to give Coach K the Hollywood storybook ending where he wins the national championship. He has 6 players drafted, and he gets the number 1 pick in the draft in his last year.
Speaking of storybook endings, the next podcast will be my last podcast over NBA Big Board. Rafael Barlowe will be taking over the podcast. A lot of cool announcements we'll have on that about what's going to happen with the podcast, the frequency. You're going to get more Big Board podcasts coming up, and lots of cool guests coming on for him. And last week, writing for the NBA Big Board newsletter, which I hope you go over and subscribe. It's free to subscribe to anybody, and Rafael is going to be taking that over. And we'll wrap up the Final Four and wrap up draft thoughts, as well as I'll talk about go down memory lane with some of my favorite draft memories all next week. So I hope turn in like this is going to be the season finale, if you will, for me, but not the finale of the NBA Big Board podcast and newsletter. Lots of great stuff to come from Rafael. So look forward to watching the games this weekend and then coming back and wrapping things up with you, Rafael.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it, but on the other hand, it still hasn't hit me like we're wrapping it up to where it's your last podcast. I'm really looking forward to just hearing some of your stories, and it's even stories that I've been wanting to ask you just offline, and okay. We've been so busy, but I'm looking forward to hearing them, and I'm going to be tuned in like a fan. So
all right,
looking forward to that, but kind of disappointed to see you go.
All right, you've been listening to Chad Ford's NBA Big Board on the Locked On Podcast Network. We'll see you next week. Aloha.